hoping, evidently, with a shot in the back to frighten each one of us, for whom the only weapons were and remain the microphone, the camera, and the pen. Freedom of speech is no longer choked or stifled, it's executed. Choking on the perestroika's glasnost and hoarse from shouting, someone evidently decided in the era of new democratic transformations to elevate to the next level of relations with sources of mass media and make them simply a target not only of critical arrows in the center and at locations. This, as well as defenselessness with bewilderment and pain, was spoken about by journalists of newspapers and employees of the local television radios in Saratov. The murder of the Russian television journalist exceeded the limits of territory which is reached by airways of Channel 1. The tragedy was heard in the world. The reaction of the German press to the murder of our colleague was instantaneous. The first state program, ARD, gave a direct broadcast 1 hour after the tragedy. The commentary of Thomas Roth from Moscow and other anchormen boiled down to one thing. In front of the authorities and with the literal idleness of authorities, absolute chaos rules, affecting more the fourth power, the recognized and respected one in the world. Tragedy has again confirmed that the folding of hands by higher officials, loud promises to defeat criminals persistently and continue today and are as effective as a requiem, says in a report of VDR. German journalists indicate the clear connection of the murder of Listiev with the plans for the global reconstruction of Ostankiно and mostly its advertising services. Politics are two sides of the same entity, the criminal pan-Russian octopus. This is the opinion of journalists in Germany. The noiseless criminal shots in the driveway of a quiet Moscow house which severed the life and works of the talented journalist Vladislav Listiev on that tragic evening in a loud echo resounded immediately in France in mass media. All the radio stations and television channels reported to their audiences this sad news from Moscow, emphasizing the great contribution of Vladislav Listiev in renewing and democratization of Russian television. The General Director of UNESCO, Federico Mayor, on behalf of this representative organization of the UN, among whose aims is to defend freedom of speech in the world and journalists' rights, stated today in Paris to the program Time that the murder of Vladislav Listiev is a great tragedy. He'll remain for all of those who knew him a man who personally contributed much so that free and truthful speech would come to Russian television screens. The best memory of him, Federico Mayor emphasized, will be the increasing of our efforts against those who intend by violence to change the course of events and subjugate them to criminal control. From the bottom of my heart, I offer my deepest condolences to the family of Vladislav Listiev and his children. Let them know that their father gave his life for the triumph of the ideals of tolerance, liberty, and justice. I just simply can't recover because literally yesterday, the 1st of March, at 5 o'clock, I watched the Ostankino program, Rush Hour, with Vladislav Listiev, and he spoke about drug addiction and all these problems. Suddenly, 2 hours later, I see his photograph. I thought it was a child's prank. I thought, can it be on television to show a photograph of someone and say that he's murdered? It was just unfathomable, and I still can't recover. I can't seem to find an explanation for this. It seems to me that Russia is in such a terrible moral state currently that people must demand laws from the deputies. And they're not solving. And they can't, and I don't know why. Why can't they pass laws to protect normal citizens, even if you're not a famous television commentator or an employee of a central television? Was he appointed director? Yes, he was general director. And not even that, even if you're an ordinary person, how can you live subjecting your life every moment to such a wild danger? They should keep them, hold them in the assembly auditorium until they solve it. Give them a soldier's ration to eat and put cots up for them, but don't let them out, or this will go on endlessly, because people are knocked off every day. You read in the newspapers, so-and-so was killed and so-and-so. What will it lead to? Maybe a nuclear bomb will be thrown on Moscow or something. Thank you. I express my condolences to you because this is truly a terrible occurrence. And the main thing is that how will it all end? God grant it not to be repeated. We'll hope, of course. Thank you. Here in the United States, the conclusion is being drawn that the darkest suppositions are materializing on what Russia is in truth. Today, there are even fewer who wish to see us as partners than yesterday. On their screens, they see the same as we do, and they probably feel what we do too, bitterness and disappointment. And for us, it seemed that they couldn't understand our problems. The Americans aren't shown good things about us. The press feeds reports on mafia, corruption, about that life isn't worth anything. And today, the newspaper, the New York Times, reports on the murder of Vlada Listьewa, and next to it a photograph, a mass burial of the casualties of war in Chechnya. There is no yet official reaction to the murder. The time difference between Moscow and Washington is 8 hours. Briefly about other events of the day. The situation in Chechnya on the last day underwent no cardinal changes. In Grozny, sniper shooting continues around the city. The second outer ring of the federal forces was established. The federal forces aviation launched bomb attacks on the populated points Argun, Sarai, Polivostan. Artillery fire continues at the village Novalda and Cherneriche, where formations of Jahar Dudaev are located. According to the Federal Border Service, on the territory of Dagestan, Chechen gunmen killed 2 officers of the Russian border troops. On the second day of the official visit to Great Britain, the chairman of the government of Russia, Viktor Chernomyrdin, began with a meeting with the leader of the Liberal Party, Tony Blair. Today, also talks were continued with the business world of the country. A session of the Consultative Commission on Foreign Investments was held. After that discussion, a memorandum was signed to attract foreign investments into the Russian economy. Also, Viktor Chernomyrdin met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Great Britain, Douglas Hurd. The President of the United States, Bill Clinton, announced his decision to remove from the American nuclear arsenals 200 tons of radioactive materials. In his opinion, this will be one more proof of America's adherence to the agreement on non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. The volume of fissionable materials, which is to be gradually extracted from nuclear arsenals of the United States, would be sufficient to create thousands of units of nuclear weapons. From the launching pad at Cape Canaveral today, the spaceship Endeavour was launched with 7 astronauts on board. The shuttle will take to the Earth's orbit an astronomical laboratory, Astro 2, in order to carry out studies of stars and galaxies. This time, the crew must set a new record of duration in flight on a shuttle spacecraft. Endeavour will spend 15.5 days in space. Today, in the Frankfurt-on-Main airport, Nick Leeson was detained, the Singaporean manager of the Barings Bank. The 28-year-old Nick Leeson is considered to be guilty for the bankruptcy of this oldest London bank. Currently, Leeson is detained in the Border Patrol building of the Frankfurt airport. For now, he has made no official statements. And the last, although the last word in the tragedy which occurred with Vlada Listьewa has not yet been said, but more news will be brought by tomorrow. And furthermore, tomorrow will be the departure, the 3rd of March at 1400 hours in the concert studio of Ostankiно. A civil requiem will be held. The burial of Vlada Listьеwa will be held Saturday, the 4th of March.